Welcome back, Investomaniacs. My name is Kitty, and I'm here to read the news so you don't have to. So today I'm going to be doing a special video. This one was requested by Behind the Bid, shout out, who asked me if I could do a video on Victoria's Secret. So let me start off by saying I love Victoria's Secret, right? I love their bras. They last me years. I love their handbags and their lotion. I love their lingerie. Super cute, super sexy. Totally show you, but I don't want to get demonetized. But how has Victoria's Secret been faring? Well, the truth is, since 2016, not very well. Even though their top line in revenue has increased by 1%, which was adjusted for inflation, their operating margins have dropped from 18% to 10.1%, and their net income has also decreased by a staggering 49%. Additionally, in 2018, they not only lost the CEO, but they also closed several stores, and they were under intense fire for their ads not conforming to the hashtag #MeToo movement. So last November, Razik, I think that's how you pronounce that, the former chief marketing officer from parent company L Brands, made some controversial statements about transgender and plus-size models in an interview with Vogue, where he stated how transgender and plus-size models would not be included in the show because the show is a fantasy, he said. I don't think we can be all things to all customers. It's a specialty business. It's not a department store. I have to kind of agree with that. But after this interview with Rogue, the company received intense lambasting. So much so that Mr. Ed here was forced to publicly apologize. He said his remarks came across as insensitive. And to be clear, he said, we absolutely would cast transgender models in our show. We've had transgender models come to castings before, but like others, they didn't make it. But it was never about gender. I admire and respect their journey to embrace who they really are. That sounds like a forced public apology if I've ever heard one. So fast forward to about a week or so ago, and Victoria's Secret announced that they've hired their first ever transgender woman, and shortly after, Mr. Ed quit. Now, this is obviously a political statement, right, to appease the LGBTQ community. So there's a couple of issues with this. Typically, as an investor, I don't like my companies making political statements, right? You're a business, you're not Fox News. So, for instance, not that long ago, we had the whole Nike and Colin Kaepernick ad, right? But the difference is Victoria's Secret hasn't been doing well for the last several years. Nike was and is doing very well. They can more or less afford to take political risks, right? Victoria's Secret, not in a position where they can afford to do this. However, with that being said, if the motivation behind said statement was an attempt to rebrand their image, I get it, right? When the company isn't doing well, you need to take some risks. But this is not a risk I would have suggested. Like, let's break this down for a little bit. They will inevitably lose female customers who are offended by their decision to equate transgender men with biological women. And they'll lose their male customers for obvious reasons. And the amount of people they'll be able to bring in from this, from the transgender woman community, will not be enough to cover the losses this will inevitably occur, or make up for the losses that have already taken place. The type of woman who is not already shopping at Victoria's Secret but who is on board with this ad is not the type who's just going to get up and start shopping at Victoria's Secret simply because of this decision. And the transgender woman community is so small, they just don't have the numbers to fill the gaps. And I bet a lot of them are already shopping at Victoria's Secret. So the fact that Victoria's Secret brought on a biological man who identifies as a woman to sell their bras and underwear indicates that they are attempting to rebrand away from focusing on actual women, especially teens and college-age women. So keep in mind, the yearly televised fashion show that they normally put on has been suffering from decreased ratings for multiple years. So the show that recently followed Mr. Ed's comments dropped by a third, and the show this year has been canceled altogether. So this tells me one of three things, right? It tells me, one, that people were upset at the fact that they didn't want to hire a transgender woman, or they were upset at the fact that he made comments about plus size models, which I personally think that's more the case than anything else. Or it was a combination of both, which obviously could be a large part of it as well. But what confirms my thoughts on the fact that it was more about the plus size models than it was about the transgender comments was the fact that in March, Victoria's Secret announced via Instagram they had hired a woman named Barbara Palvin, who, even though she's not considered plus size, she's considered curvier than most of the other models. But if you actually look at her Instagram, she's not even what I would consider curvier than other models. I almost see no difference between her or the others. So the post was immediately celebrated online with people hailing it because she looked like a normal person or she represented a real body. But I don't know about you, I have a body really close to some of these models and I see many other women who do too. So like, is my body not a real representation? Like, that's what gets me. But then we also have analysts who were fast to note just how successful the post was. Within 48 hours, it had 780,000 likes and it ranked number one of all of Victoria's Secret's 103 posts from the previous month, and it generated 4.2 times the average number of likes. So, like I said, their top line and revenue is growing at 1% adjusted for inflation, but their operating margins are down from 18% to 10.1%. And their net income has also dropped since 2016 by 49%. So I get that they feel as though they need to do something to rebrand themselves, and I respect it. But as an investor, regardless of which side of the spectrum I fall on, the hiring of a transgender model as a political statement does not please me. And I do not think that this particular political bow will work in their favor. Sorry, not sorry. So this about wraps up what I have for you today. Like and hit that comment, hit the subscribe button below. Comment if you would, share would be even better. And check back often where I read the news so you don't have to.